knew him well, too.
Yeah, we're sick, we're sad, we're angry, and we're resolute. And we're going to avenge Charlie's death in the way Charlie would want it to be avenged.
All right, folks, as we continue to cover the political fallout and ramifications of the brutal assassination of Turning Point USA founder and MAGA influencer Charlie Kirk, I wanted to dedicate an entire video to the reaction from MAGA Fox News hosts, because there was some genuinely unhinged on-air reactions from the likes of Jesse Waters and Sean Hannity and Mark Levin, in which they not only expressed their grief for somebody they considered an ally and friend, which is totally understandable, but the extent to which they made vicious partisan attacks and aspersions about liberals, progressives, and Democrats, and use violent rhetoric like avenge and war, and it's pretty ominous. And I also want to explore the pushback against these MAGA Fox News hosts, and most importantly, the pushback that they got from Jessica Tarlov, their liberal Fox News co-host, and her raging moderates co-host, Scott Galloway. So we're going to talk about all of that. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, so we're going to take a look at the rest of this segment from Jesse Waters here, the rest of this clip from him. He's got very strong opinions about what happened. Of course, we condemn the assassination of Kirk. We condemn political violence. But he's escalating the tensions. He's pouring gas on the fire. So take a look, and then we'll play some other clips from other MAGA Fox News hosts.
He does it with a smile. And there's nothing controversial about saying socialism is worse than capitalism. Men and women are different. Let's put America first, because that's all he was about, putting America first. And as Greg said, this hits differently because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves. Now, Charlie would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, the media, and all of these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Greg's right again. This is a turning point, and we know which direction we're going.
So again, I understand that Jesse Waters is worked up. I understand that he feels personal grief for his friend, and it is unacceptable. I agree with him there. But I just want to remind a couple of things or point out a couple of things before we, again, look at some other clips and then the backlash. So he went through a list of violence against right-wingers like Donald Trump, for example, and the assassination attempt of Justice Kavanaugh. As I mentioned in a previous video, Mehdi Hassan of Zateo has put together a pretty comprehensive list of recent high-profile acts of violence by Trump supporters against liberals. So again, just to remind you, the man who targeted and killed Democratic state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark in their home in June of this year, just like 12 weeks ago, was a Trump supporter. The man charged with the attempted assassination of Pennsylvania's Democratic governor, Josh Shapiro, in April this year was a Trump supporter. The man convicted of orchestrating a series of shootings at the homes of 4 Democratic elected officials in New Mexico in 2022 was a Trump supporter. The man who tried to kidnap then Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and then assaulted her husband in 2022 was a Trump supporter. The men who wanted to hang Mike Pence during the January 6 insurrections were Trump supporters. The man who wanted to kill the son of Obama appointed judge, who did kill, not wanted to, killed the son of Obama appointed district judge Esther Salas in 2020 was a Trump supporter. The men who were convicted of trying to kidnap Michigan's Democratic governor, Gretchen Whitmer, in 2020 were Trump supporters, the man who sent pipe bombs to the homes of Presidents Obama and Biden and Secretary Hillary Clinton and other top Democrats in 2018 was a Trump supporter, and the man who killed left-wing activist Heather Heyer after driving his car into a crowd of counter-protesters in Charlottesville in 2017 was a Trump supporter. So yes, are right-wingers victims of political violence? Yes, but so too are liberals and progressives victims of right-wing violence. And for Jesse to suggest that this is a one-sided situation is really inappropriate, especially when he's using such militant, aggressive language. So I've got some other clips to play. Well, yes, let me play. I just want to think about what order I want to do this in. Let me play the clips of Mark Levin and Sean Hannity as well, and then we will get to the backlash for all of this. But I just want to do that quick fact check of Jesse Waters. Here's Mark Levin, another MAGA Fox News host.
They know that this is a double-edged sword, that if this becomes the norm, and it is becoming the norm, then this country's over. They tried to kill our president twice. They killed Charlie Kirk. They assassinated Charlie Kirk. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No, the way you put an end to this is to put an end to it. That's how you put an end to it. And people talk about there wasn't enough security. You got a guy shooting from 200 yards with a high, powerful rifle. You're never going to have enough security to stop somebody like that unless you stop them up front.
So I don't know what he means by put an end to it, put an end to it. Again, we can probably draw the most sinister of inferences about that. And again, who's they? Who's they? Again, we can. This game works both ways. Do we really want to do this? It's not accurate nor counterproductive, and it is counterproductive. But if a shooter represents the entire movement that you believe he belongs to, then the MAGA movement has a lot to answer for, right? The MAGA movement is so guilty based on the actions of, again, the examples that I provided in that list. Now, they would reject that logic. They'd be like, well, that doesn't represent the entire movement. It's like, okay, well, fair enough. But the logic has to cut both ways, right? But that's not how they're operating at the moment. And the thing is, like some would say, well, they're just thinking about this in terms of grief. No, because they say these things even not in the immediate aftermath of something which is so emotionally disturbing to them, right? They'll say this months. People, right-wingers were saying this months after the attempts on Donald Trump. So even when they've calmed down, they still double down on this idea that anything bad that happens is purely and explicitly and exclusively from the left, and the right is only ever victims, and they never do anything wrong, and they're perfect, and there's no violence in the right-wing movement at all. And it's just categorically not true. One last clip of MAGA Fox News host Sean Hannity.
Where are the leaders on the left that will challenge this madness, that will speak out against it? And I'll add that anyone that claims to be a conservative or MAGA or pro-Donald Trump that uses that type of extreme, violent rhetoric, the same goes for you. There are some idiots that claim to be conservative. They are not. But the left has given us 10 non-stop years of rage and hatred and vile language. And it's undeniable that it is poisoning the minds of many people in our country, and it needs to end.
So you see how he started out actually kind of decent, how he was laying into the left, but he's like, okay, well, conservatives and MAGA too, you guys, you got to calm down. It's like, oh, Sean, that's a reasonable interpretation. And then he just can't help himself. I don't know if he got like a signal from behind the camera. Hey, dude, we're Fox News. You can't say the right or MAGA has any issues. They're perfect. And so then he was like the left. It's like, okay, again, I will refer you to the list of examples I provided. We can also talk about the incendiary rhetoric coming from Donald Trump and MAGA Republican politicians all the time. And he talks about, and Jesse Waters talked about too, we're talking about the people in the media, the politicians, these rats. As I discussed in my second video, I believe, of today, Democratic politicians have universally condemned the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the attack on Charlie Kirk before we learned he was killed. They condemned the shooting, they condemned the assassination, they condemned political violence. So the left, to the extent that it's represented by the Democratic Party, has been well represented in terms of its condemnation. Now, there are all sorts of unhinged responses to the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband or to the shooting of the Minnesota Democratic lawmakers. So again, here's my thing. I have 2 points, I guess, on this before we play the last clip. And this is of Jessica Tarlov and her co-host Scott Galloway pushing back on what we just heard. Is we should strive to be better, all of us, in our rhetoric. But if not, then there has to be just one standard for the two parties, the two sides. If the left gets to use passionate, potentially incendiary rhetoric, so too does the right, and vice versa. And the problem that I have is when I see finger pointing at the Democratic Party, not that the Democratic Party is perfect and not that we haven't had incendiary rhetoric. That's fair to call out, but if that's the case, then we get to call you guys out for your incendiary rhetoric. And quite frankly, there's much more of it on your side, represented by the people in power, than is on our side. And so again, these politicians, the Democratic leaders, man, they spoke out. They condemned this vociferously. Are you all going to do the same when there's violence against Democrats? Because you haven't, to the same extent that Democrats have here when there was violence against Democrats, again, going as recently as June. I digress. Let's hear it from liberal Fox News host and someone I deeply respect, Jessica Tarlov, and her co-host Scott Galloway, who I also really like, on their podcast Raging Moderates, and you should definitely subscribe to that channel if you haven't yet. But here's how they unpack all of this.
This is terrible, but also just hearing you speak, Jess, to be blunt, your tone here is distinctly different than many conservatives, including those you work with, on this issue. You are being magnanimous, generous, saying, speaking. Basically, everyone on the left has said some version of the following: this is a tragedy. This is unacceptable. On the right, we have people saying,
this is war.
That MAGA will avenge Charlie Kirk's death. That this is a quote, "They are at war with us," said your colleague Jesse Waters. Is that going to help? Should we have declared war on MAGA when a guy showed up and murdered a couple in their home and their dog and then went to another house and shot 2 other people? Should we have declared war? So I would argue, while we're always in a position on the left that we're supposed to understand and feel the pain of the right, how come the left's response is so much more civilized and trying to turn the temperature down, and the right is led by the president saying it's the radical left? Was it the radical left that tried to burn down Governor Shapiro's office? Was it the radical left that was planning to kidnap Governor Whitmer? I mean, what you saw from the governor of Utah was someone acting like a president and acting like a true elected leader.
To the point about the rhetoric, I was trying to parse my thoughts and think about, how I wanted to present right now in talking to you. And I wanted to lead with the fact that Charlie Kirk was a real human being.
Yep.
That I knew. And that he has babies. And then I also wanted to say that I'm so disappointed that so many on the left keep going back to the well with these good wishes and with the right sentiment and are met with this violent, derogatory rhetoric that demonizes people who vote like us. And that doesn't mean there aren't lunatics online that are celebrating his death. I see it in the comments because I posted something nice about Charlie. But when the president of the United States of America ignores the fact that a Democratic elected official was murdered, flags at half-staff for Charlie? Yeah, sure. What about for the Hortmans? And what you said about Josh Shapiro, Paul Pelosi, they mocked him when he was attacked like that. And I want to walk myself back from the edge all the time of saying the American project has failed. But it's in moments like these where I do feel that way. And I'm not talking about democracy writ large or how great capitalism is or the fact that immigrants from all over the world are desperately trying to get here because this is where you can build a business. This is where you can have this incredible dream. I'm saying the fact that we can't, and it's 9/11 today on top of it, that we can't just all be on the fucking same page for a second and talk about what's really going on here and acknowledge the fact that There are violent psychopaths on the left, and there are violent psychopaths on the right that are taking lives. And the president does set the tone. That's why you have the bully pulpit. That's why you are the most important person in the entire world. And listening to him last night just demonize and degrade broke my heart, on top of thinking about Charlie Kirk's little kids that are going to grow up without their father. And it's appalling what is going on in this country.
Yeah. I don't want to cut Jess off there, but you should definitely watch the entire episode. They just dropped it. It's about 12 minutes long at Raging Moderates. And so she gives a really sincere and heartbreaking pushback on what is said by her MAGA Fox News colleagues, and even more importantly, Donald Trump, which we've discussed in previous videos. So there you have it. Just wanted to give a dedicated response to the insanity that we're seeing from MAGA Fox News hosts, and even their Fox News colleague, Jessica Tarlov, is appalled. Go subscribe to Raging Moderates if you haven't already. And in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.